Welcome to the Advisory Committee on Plants and Animals. I am Han Lau, Plant Pest Control Branch Manager at the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, and I will be chairing this meeting. Kevin, want to do the IT part?
Okay, yes, for those who are joining our Zoom meeting through an app or a web browser, when you are called upon to speak, which your currently, just click on the raise hand button and we will have you come forward and speak. If you are joining through the phone, just do a *9 to raise your hand. And then for those on the phone as well, *6 is to mute and run.
Thank you, Kevin. And so, in the event that connectivity is lost and attempts to repair the connection exceed 30 minutes, the meeting will be may be terminated or continue to another date and time. Please consult the web page for updated information. Just a reminder, testifiers are reminded that there is a 2-minute limit of testimony per agenda item. If there is anyone testifying in the room, please be sure to come up to the mic and identify yourself before you begin. All right, call to order. So this meeting is called to order at 1:34 p.m. Okay, 5 members equals quorum. So introduction, let's go to the second item of the agenda. Introductions, roll call. I will take a roll call of the committee members present. When the name is called, please verbally acknowledge your presence and confirm whether or not you are alone in the room. If you are not alone in the room, you will need to identify anyone who is 18 years old or older who is also in the room with you. This also serves as a roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections or abstentions. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. Okay, so first on the list is Han Lau, myself, present, and Greg Takashima.
Good afternoon, everyone. Present and alone.
Thank you, Greg. And Rob Hall.
Present here at PQ.
Thank you, Rob. Maria.
Aloha, I'm present. I'm not alone, but I am using earphones for the sound.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. And Sam. Sam gone. I guess Sam is not here, so Sam is absent. Joshua?
I'm here, and I am alone in my office.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. And Pam? Oh yeah, Pam is out. Okay, Pam is absent. And Tom?
Aloha, I'm here. Nobody else but me in this cubicle.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so we're done with roll call and introduction. So let's move on to the third item on the agenda. So request for review and recommendation by the Advisory Committee on Plants and Animals. Public testimony will be heard after each item. So as a reminder, please limit your testimony to 2 minutes to allow all testifiers to participate. And please follow the prior instructions on providing testimony. At this point, I would like to call on the staff to present.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jonathan Ho. I am the Plant Quarantine Branch Manager. We have a single request with 3 parts. I think in the interest of time, we'll just get into so I don't have to read the 3 paragraphs worth of stuff related to the petition to initiate administrative rulemaking pursuant to 158.95 to restrict CRB host material from any other area in the state to the islands of Maui and Lanai, and that we're requesting that the request is that the committee make a finding that the existing regulations create a situation that's dangerous justifying the interim rule and that the interim rule is required. So a little bit of background. The petition was received a petition was received by the Lahaina Community Land Trust for emergency and interim rulemaking related to CRB. That initial petition is included as Appendix A, and it included proposed interim and emergency rulemaking for CRB host material. And on June 23rd, the board reviewed the petition and directed the branch to initiate interim rulemaking and did not approve emergency rulemaking processes. So after that, PQ staff, we met with the petitioners on June 29th and July 7th to discuss the interim rule. At the board meeting, the petitioners did provide a revised interim rule language, interim and emergency rule language, which is what we used to discuss on the June 29th meeting. Further revisions were made and discussed on the July 7th meeting, and the Appendix C version of the rules are the set that is exactly as what was provided by the petitioners and is what is being up for consideration by the committee for the finding. Basically, 158.5B enables the establishment of interim rules. And in order to do so, the committee needs to have a finding that the importation or movement of any flora or fauna in the absence of effective rules creates a situation that is dangerous to public health and safety or the ecological health of flora or fauna present in the state, which is so immediate in nature as to constitute an emergency. Should the process go through, an interim rule must be published within 12 days of issuance and cannot be effective for more than a year. So the rule that is in Appendix C basically will prohibit the inter-island movement of live plants. There's organic material attached to the roots, coconut fruit, untreated decomposing plant material, from decomposing plant material and other things such as landscaping or erosion control mats and socks. And then gravel, sand, rock that is free or that contains organic material from any other state, any other area of the state to Maui or Lanai. It requires secondary inspections, and it has very specific exemptions, such as products that are used for consumption, with the exception of coconut fruit, very specific plant products that have been preserved from decay by treatment or intended use, such as lumber, carvings, firewood, seeds for planting, cut flowers and foliage, rock, coral, gravel, and sand that does not have any organic material, potted plants transported by DLNR's Rare Plant Program, and tissue cultured or other propagated plants in sterile media. Having met with the petitioners multiple times, we were very thankful that they were willing to engage with us to, I think, understand, I think, where a lot of the comments came, particularly from the board submittal. And ultimately, there really are two things that are, I think, maybe misalignment. So I think the first thing is, I think the DLNR Rare Plant Program specifically being exempted. The department is not against the program in any way, shape, or form. And I think I'm not super familiar with the program, but my understanding is I think there are very specific things that the program does that minimize risk. And our suggestion would be to identify those things as being being acceptable. So, potted plants in sterile media that's grown in a indoor laboratory, or I don't know what the process is, because then any person who does the same thing would get the same benefit, because I mean, if it is low risk for one, it should be low risk for all. So I think that is the stance that the branch is taking. It's not that we don't want the rebut program to exist, because clearly it is important, but it's what are those things that are acceptable, and anyone who does those things should be able to get the same benefit because the risks are mitigated. And then I think as it relates to the second portion, about the second, or the requirement of a secondary inspection. You know, there is that challenge, obviously, of Lanai not having inspectors, and the to manage it, you know, one suggestion would be to make it a may, so that should there be staff on Lanai, we could do the secondary inspection, and or it could be removed, because the rule does enable post-inspection processes anyhow. So, and I think to the extent of, I would say, the secondary inspections, as we've been doing the work, right now, the only times that secondary inspections have worked has been on Lanai. But that is a process that is absent of treatment, right? Because there are no treatment for plants. The existing treatment processes for what do you call it, for whether it be heat or fumigation for green waste, or not green waste, for mulch and compost and things like that. There are secondary inspections that are occurring primarily on Maui, since we do have staff that are able to do it, and we have not found CRB in those inspections. So I think the processes are, for all intents and purposes, have been effectuated, and we haven't seen it being any more beneficial. So I don't think it is, you know, I don't think the rule should stop based off of that. And I think if it's imperative that it needs to be there, it should be created as a may, as opposed to a shall, or be removed, because there is the ability for, the rule already gives the ability for all intents and purposes, post-entry inspections. The rest of the rule is, you know, I think it's kind of a amalgamation of the other existing regulations, and it is more, I think, in line with, I think, stuff that can be done. And, you know, the petitioners have been willing to work with us to create provisions that would enable, for example, things like treatment, should one occur for potted plants. There was some testimony that was received that, you know, to try to address the lack of inspection on Lanai and to basically prohibit plant movement to Lanai. The rule already does it because there are no treatments. So I don't see the regulation being necessary. If there is an effective treatment that is found to be 100% effective, you know, the secondary inspection is just to help verify that it's been effective, because obviously we're going to be verifying the treatment before it occurs. And which is, again, similar to what we're doing now for the green waste and the compost. So yeah, again, I don't find it to be necessary, but again, obviously that's for the committee to decide. And again, there is the authority in the regulation, or the proposed regulation, that already enables post-entry, and the rules already enable us to do random inspections anyway we'd like. But it's just, I think, the requirement, particularly because there is no inspectors on Lanai, and, you know, we obviously can't deputize other folks as well. So just trying to make sure that, again, we're providing a regulation that is actually effectuatable, and obviously not, you know, significantly impacting one island versus the other. But yeah, that's basically it. I believe the petitioner should be available to speak to that, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Before we proceed, I need to have, may I have a motion to approve?
Approve.
To move on to discuss, I mean, for public discussion.
Are we going to do questions before the motion?
No, this is,
I mean, they can do that too. I mean, there's fine.
Well, which,
Yeah, I think it's however you'd like to do it. I think you can, I think, right, we're hearing it, and I think the fine, and whatever the recommendation should be.
Well, I'll move that we,
Okay.
I recommend to the Board of Agriculture to approve the interim rule as, written in Appendix C.
So Rob, so I have Rob. And then may I have a second?
I'll second it, presuming
Okay.
that enables a discussion about it.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you, Tom. So is there anyone from the public who wishes to provide testimony? Two. Okay, let's start with Christy.
Did you mean Carolyn?
Sorry, Christy Martin. Oh wait, Christy. I thought I saw Christy Martin's hand up. Yeah, let's go with Christy Martin and then Caroline.
Carolyn.
Oh,
It's okay. No, it's fine. Just call, and then we can have the discussion after. It's fine. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Not a problem.
okay, I see Caroline's hand now. So Caroline, go ahead. Go ahead, Caroline.
Yes. Hi, aloha. My name is Carolyn Oviloa. I am one of the petitioners. I'm with the Lahaina Community Land Trust, and I met with staff, Jonathan and Christopher, earlier last month to work on these interim rules. And I just want to thank this committee for your time today and for considering these rules. We here on Maui, and especially here in Lahaina, really feel very strongly that this CRB poses a very significant emergency risk to our island, to our economy, to our agricultural industry, to our tourism industry, to many of our culturally important plants and places that cannot be overstated. The disaster that we have seen CRB create on Oahu and Kauai cannot be allowed to happen here. And it's become evident that existing processes are inadequate to protect us from infestation of CRB from the other islands. And we feel like we cannot continue to allow weaknesses in the system to leave us vulnerable to these types of things. If CRB gets established here, our agriculture will take a blow, our tourism economy will take a blow, and our communities will feel the pain. And we appreciate you guys hearing us and considering these rules that we feel are entirely reasonable. This is an interim rule that will be in place for 1 year. We admit that there may be ways that this can be improved. We're already talking to Molokai and West Hawaii on ways that we might strategize to agree on a set of rules that would be the same for all of us. But until we can have that time for that to happen, we need to put these protections in place to protect Maui. And we feel that this is entirely reasonable given the emergency status and the risk to our environment and our community. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to hear this rule. I do hear Jonathan's points, and I am okay with the may language that acknowledges that Lanai doesn't have an inspector currently. I hope that with the risk that this provides, and if there's the need on Lanai, that we could find some kind of a solution to provide for inspection services when needed. It's very common that resources are shared between Maui and Lanai because of Lanai's rural condition. And as for the rare plant program, I am willing to work on improving a situation to allow the rare plant or plants to come over in a future edition, in a future rulemaking. But for now, if we have to remove their exemption in order to get this passed, I'm okay with that. Because if we have to put pause for rare plant program to ship potted plants over here for a year, I think that's going to be okay. And we can find other ways to propagate rare plants for the next year until we can find a way to bring their propagated material from Kauai over in the future. Thank you so much for hearing my testimony and for hearing this issue and for your support. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. And next, Maya. Okay.
So Christy was next. What do you want mine?
Oh, okay, Christy. I thought I saw, okay, Christy Martin.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Christy Martin from the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. CCAPS is in support of this petition for an interim rule. Briefly, we believe that the lack of rules to effectively address CRB host material movement does create a situation that's an emergency for the ecological health of the flora. And we urge this committee to make that finding. Also, we wanted to provide our support for the Rare Plant Program for DLNR. Anybody who's been to Lion Arboretum to see their program or talk to any of their biologists, literally, they will talk your ear off about their protocols. They're not on this call, I don't think, so we wanted to provide some of those details. First of all, the growing media that they use in the lab, it is a contained lab. It has no live soil. It's a mix of dried moss, perlite, vermiculite, and all of that material is autoclaved to sterilize it because, of course, these are rare and endangered plants. They don't want the seeds going down because of pathogens in there. Of course, they are grown in a contained and sealed environment. They are sown in sterilized growing material. And once they're ready to be planted out and taken away, they're placed into, again, sterilized media, placed in a sealed box before they're taken out of the lab and taken to DAB for inspection to be cleared to go to a neighbor island. So at no point really during this is there a real biosecurity risk, particularly for CRB, but even to some of the pathogens and insects that could jump on anywhere in the transport. So we believe this particular activity and program is well thought out and poses a low risk. I don't know of any other program in the state that operates like that. I think that's why it's the only narrow exemption included in here. But just wanted to share that because it's such a rare treat to be able to go see the Rare Plant Program. I want to share some of those details with you folks. So again, thanks for meeting. We urge you to support this interim rule moving forward. Mahalo.
Oh, thank you, Christy. Next, Maya.
Aloha, are you able to hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. Aloha committee members, my name is Maya Hunter and I am here on behalf of Maui County Department of Agriculture. I wanted to give a huge mahalo to Jonathan and Christopher for working with the petitioners on solutions within the language and to everyone who has put just a tremendous amount of effort since the last BAB meeting when it was first heard. I think it's safe to say that every participant on this call does not want CRB to invade Maui County as we have seen the devastation on other islands. So the question remains now of how we're going to move forward on solutions. We all want to preserve our cultural crops and we all do not want to block local businesses. MDOA is non-regulatory, so here on island we have been pushing a lot of advocacy and education of CRB, but there is really only so far that can go without this interim rule. We know that this interim rule can be passed very similarly to Moloka'i's interim rule, and we're in support of the amended petition and the notes that Jonathan had provided earlier. We believe that the risk in passing this interim rule is far less significant than the risk that is currently before us without one. I wanted to give also a huge mahalo to my other fellow testifiers for showing out today, and hopefully we'll be able to come to a solution together. Thank you for the time, and I am open and available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Maya. Okay, next, forestry and DLNR and wildlife, DLNR.
Aloha committee members, my name is Matt Keir and I'm with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife with the Rare Plant Program and the Plant Extinction Prevention Program. So I appreciate your consideration of this petition, and I want to thank Christy Martin for the excellent description of the growing conditions of the plants that we are proposing to move inter-island. And I want to also thank the petitioners for their consideration and suggestion of a pause on operations for this interim rule. I just wanted to explain that besides the extreme conditions that we take for phytosanitation to ensure that our plants are clean, including, as she mentioned, growing them in sterile autoclaved media inside of growth chambers, inside of a laboratory at the University of Hawaii. One of the plants we focus on is Lolu, the Pichardia palms. And as you know, the CRB is lethal to this species, and it's urgent that we act now to prevent the extinction of the species that are endemic to Maui. So our program has collected seeds in the last year. They're currently being propagated in sterile conditions at the Lion Arboretum. And when they are ready of size for transport, we would like to bring them home to Maui. If we cannot bring them home, they will remain on Oahu where there are CRB. So I just wanted to add onto the excellent descriptions before me that is the reason for the urgency, especially for CRB and the potential for it to impact wild populations of Lolu on Maui. We have small plants that are ready for transport, and we feel that this is a really important method for helping to lessen the risk that CRB will cause extinction for our Pichardias. So thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm here if you have any other questions. Mahalo.
All right, thank you, Matt. Next, we have Chap.
Cap, could you state your full name and affiliation for the record?
I apologize. My name is Kapali Kiahi. Is that okay? And
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Okay, so mahalo everybody for your time. Thank you so much for having us as well. My name is Kapali Kiahi, and of course I am providing testimony regarding the Lahaina Community Land Trust petition. I am part of the petitioners as well. Before the committee, the question before the committee today is not whether CRB poses a threat. The question has already been answered by the beetle's continued spread throughout Hawaii and by the efforts already underway to contain it. The question before you is whether the existing regulatory framework is sufficient to prevent CRB from further reaching, of course, the islands of Maui, where the infestation is largely free of widespread infestation. Respectfully, the current rules are not enough. The Lahaina Community Land Trust does appreciate the willingness to engage with the department, of course, over the last several weeks, and it has been productive. And the process demonstrates that everyone shares the same ultimate objective: preventing the spread of CRB. There may be some differences regarding specific regulatory language. However, the existence of ongoing discussion over individual provisions does not diminish the underlying emergency. Once CRB becomes established, eradication becomes exponentially more difficult and costly. Every shipment that unnecessarily increases risk represents an opportunity for permanent ecological damage. As an organization, the Lahaina Community Land Trust is dedicated to preserving Lahaina for future generations. I must stress that we are still recovering from the wildfires of 2023, the loss of canopy, stressed landscapes, ongoing ecological recovery, and of course the tourism industry has taken a major blow as well. That makes the introduction of another destructive invasive species especially consequential. So for these reasons, I respectfully urge the advisory committee to make the finding required under HRS 158-9.5 that the existing rules are insufficient to address the immediate threat posed by coconut rhinoceros beetle, and that the adoption of an interim rule is necessary to prevent its spread. Mahalo for your consideration. Aloha.
Oh, thank you very much, Kapali. Anyone else in person? Okay, we're gonna pause. We're gonna have the in-person testimony. So.
Good afternoon. I'm Helmut Roth. I'm with DLNR. I'm the invasive species biologist. Site duty is organizing Hawaii Invasive Species Council. So I'm here to give a testimony, and actually I have a question. First, the interim rule basically prohibits all CRB material from going. So what material requires secondary inspection at arrival in Maui or Lanai? I'm not quite sure why that is necessary if host material is prohibited from going in the first place. Then my comment is to the shipment of plants, and that would, if I would be asked my recommendation, I would just say these are the requirements of plants to ship under this specific quarantine. And here are either tissue cultured, micropropagated, they're in a lab, they're without soil, bare root. These are the conditions that basically minimize to a negligible risk that coconut rhinoceros beetle will be transferred in this process. Keep in mind, they're not only, what I understand, our rare plant program trying to ship plants, there's also orchids, what I understand. Orchids are usually shipped in international in the US if you buy them. They're bare root. So the risk is absolutely minimal there too. So let's get away from, okay, it's just exempted rare plant program. Here's the condition for shipping plants. The point is to mitigate the risk that CRB is being shipped. And then if I understand, because I think, again, my recommendation to come up with actually a plan for today, I understand from talking to Matt, any delay will jeopardize his program because the plants are ready and you can't wait another year or 2 years, as one of the testifiers said, and then maybe think about adding a second interim rule to maybe include this. By then, these plants are probably no longer viable and can't be shipped, and valuable plants will be lost. So again, let's figure out, okay, what are the mitigation process, specify them, and Matt probably can supply all what is up. And in my opinion, that will be the ideal thing for any plant shipment, not only in Hawaii. As you know, the biggest risk is shipping globally live plants. That's why we have all the problems we are facing almost everywhere in this world with pests. Here we have an opportunity actually to add mitigation process that could be an example for not only Hawaii, but for many other places. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with online participants. Okay, so we're gonna have Wayne now. Wayne?
Hello. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, members of the Advisory Committee. Wayne Tanaka with the Sierra Club of Hawaii. I'll just be really brief. We do strongly support the committee taking action today. As other testifiers have emphasized, doing nothing is not an option. And it's really, I mean, this is an emergency, right? Like it's the costs and a bit on our to respond to new introductions and the spread of the CRB once it lands will increase exponentially and very quickly past point of return. So do want to urge you to take action today, and I want to thank the petitioners for their initiative to get us to this point. I also do want to urge you as a committee to make a decision, when it comes to this rare plants program, based on a logical and critical assessment of what has been presented to you. You are the subject matter experts, right? And so you need to make a recommendation based on what makes sense, what is logically sound. If something doesn't make sense to you, including from staff, then please, it's time to ask questions and probe. Yeah, and ultimately it's going to be the board that makes a final decision. So otherwise, again, please make the required findings so that we satisfy the legal requirements to get these rules adopted as soon as possible, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Wayne. So next we have Layla.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mahalo, and thank you for allowing me to give testimony today. My name is Layla Kealoha, and I am here today to present Pohaku Pelemaka, our nonprofit in Puna, and I want to ask for your folks' support in passing this, this rule to go back to DAB. And because this is an emergency, we need to be proactive and not reactive. And it's really important that we work together on this. I don't need to repeat everything else everyone else has said, but this is really critical. We're at a critical time right now where we can actually prevent this from becoming a really large problem. We stand strongly with our Maui Ohana over there. This is more than just a food issue. It's an ecological issue. It's a cultural issue. This is really something that defines who we are as a people. It's part of our cultural identity as a people of Hawaii, is our niu, as well as the lolu, as well as everything else that's attacking on Oahu. And I just want to strongly ask for your support today to move this forward to the next level so we can implement the interim rule. And I do want to ask for the support, and I'm not sure if this is the place, but even with our interim rule on Hawaii Island, that we need to work towards permanent rules and really look at the long-term repercussions that this is going to do. This is not about us. This is not about, this is about our kids and our grandkids, because that's ultimately who's going to have the longest effect on. I don't think any of us could imagine Hawaii with no coconut trees. I don't think it's not a thing that none of us ever want to see. We don't want to be in a Hawaii that has no ulu, that has no hala, that has no banana, that has no kalo, right? And so I want to send my appreciation to each and every one of you for being a part of the solution and to really move this forward. Mahalo for your time.
Right, thank you, Layla. And anybody else? Oh, yeah. So we have no more testimonies online, so we're gonna move into committee discussion. And before I open it up to the committee members, I just want to address a question from Helmut. So I think Helmut he asked, Helmut, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think his first question was, what materials require secondary inspection upon arrival in Maui and Lanai? So, okay, so I'm gonna call upon Jonathan if you could.
With everything. Well, that's the intent. The intent is for everything, but I think based on the discussion, I think the may seems, changing the shall to a may seemed to be okay with the petitioners. And for us, that makes sense. I think for the secondary inspection.
Jonathan, if you're banning everything from going there, what are they going to inspect? I think was where the question.
Oh, well, nothing, because it's
right. So moot, or I mean, would like the bare root things that are, I believe,
well, because they're exempt. They're exempted from
so
the
would
regulations.
So is that what the post-entry inspection would be?
Yeah, no, so I guess there's two different things. So the rules as they exist in 4-72 require the inspection of plants prior to movement. Things in 472, certain plants have additional restrictions prior to movement. The rules also have the ability to conduct periodic random inspections already.
Right.
So the way this regulation is set up, like for example, wood plants are prohibited, right? Except, and then the exception is if they're subject to a treatment, which doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay? Should a treatment occur, then that provision about may be inspected can kick in.
Okay.
So so there's that, and then the like for example, like the mulch, the green waste, all that types of stuff. Those things are can move if they're treated, but they can still be inspected upon arrival at Lanai or Maui, right? So, and I think it's just the requirement to do it versus the ability, right? So I think everybody wants the ability to occur, and then, but instead of having it a requirement. And I think Carolyn is on, so she's obviously the petitioner, so she can speak better to that just to make sure that I'm correct. Carolyn.
Carolyn, you're up.
Yes, hi, aloha. I tried to get unmuted. The post arrival inspection is a secondary precaution because we recognize that as we transition into this, as Jonathan said, someday if there is treatment for potted plants, we still want to be able to ensure that the potted material that's coming over has not been compromised since its treatment. Same with the mulch and other things that have been treated. We still want the ability to inspect material because the risk is too great. So if they made concessions to allow for mitigating risk with materials that still could be transporting the CRB, but we did that on the condition that we could still ensure that when it arrives here, we can be confident that it's clean and it's been treated and it's not harboring the pest and bringing it over here. If that helps clarify, that's what the intention is, and what we felt like, what we were able to agree to in attempting to find a set of interim rules that mitigated the risk that CRB represents and the movement of some of these materials represents.
And you think the may is adequate for provide that?
The may is a concession just because of Lanai. The folks that we have in our Maui Department of Ag here, I know they really recognize the risk, and because they have the staff, I already know that they will be doing that. And I think we're going to talk to our friends on Lanai and try to better understand the conditions there and what other avenues we could pursue to ensure that is also an ability that they have. But if that's what it takes to get this rule passed today, we're willing to make that concession and take the may.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. And
follow-up question to that, I guess it's kind of related to it. What is the status for treatments as far as research and pesticide registrations go? Is there anything on the horizon that you might be able to?
Yeah, the work has been done with a fumigant called Eco2Fume. And I think CRB Response has been working on, I think, trying to dial in a treatment that obviously will kill all life stages and not the plants themselves. And I think that's kind of been the challenge.
Okay.
So I think they found some some glimmer of effectiveness, but I think there's some challenges. I think partially, particularly, I think with some of the eggs, and obviously, and so they're talk about doing 2 treatments and all kinds of craziness, which are a different set of challenges. But CRB is a problem in other places, so it's possible that there's a treatment. But and again, if none occurs or none is found, so be it. It's prohibited, and obviously we will not certify it. But we're appreciative that the petitioners were willing to allow a similar standard to what is being done for the mulch. Right? You have a verified treatment; it can be subjected, and if one is found, great. And if one isn't, then it is what it is at this point. So, because the initial set of the regulation, it was just a straight prohibition for plants.
Does the fumigant, would that just require PQ certification, or does it have to also get registered through pesticide brand?
I think that fumigant's already registered.
Oh, okay. So yes, you would need to do the registration. Yes. Great. Thanks.
Okay, let's open up to the committee. Joshua.
Sure, yeah, I have 2 questions, just for clarification. I guess one would, go to Matt Kier, and it's just for my own understanding. And I agree with including the PEP program on the interim rule, but I was just kind of curious of what the scale and scope is of the movement of material from that lab. Like, are we talking 100 plants, 1,000 plants? Like, what does that typically entail? And I know it's like different species. If Matt's still there.
Matt, are you still around? DLNR. I think forestry and wildlife DLNR.
Hello, this is Matt Kier again. So thanks for the question, Josh. Yes, so that's really important. We expect to have monthly shipments of less than 100 individual plants. And you're right that it is multiple species. So some of them are the Pichardia lolu palms that are endemic to Maui. And then it's a variety of other species, all of which are in 2-inch square pots in sterile media and are seedlings. So they're typically 1 to 3 centimeters tall, and usually several seedlings per pot, less than 100 plants at a time.
Okay, thank you for that background knowledge. And then I guess my second question is, and I guess this would probably go to Jonathan. Reading this, it's the shipment to Maui and Lanai. And I guess I was curious, in a lot of cargo shipments, would come directly from Honolulu, but sometimes things, I believe, go to Maui and then Lanai. I'm curious, would this put a rule on shipments from Maui to Lanai? Because it says Maui and Lanai. So I'm just curious about, does that prohibit transport from Maui to Lanai?
Good question. Let me think. Yes.
It does? Okay.
Right, because it's CRB host material transported to Maui and Lanai. Right? Not from you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I think it does. That being said, I think we could. I mean, obviously, we'd have to make sure that the petition. My guess is the petitioners, that's not their intent, and obviously, I think we can. Obviously, the committee is. I don't think the committee wants to do that. I think we can make sure that it's clear that the movement between Maui and Lanai is unrestricted. I guess the way I would address it is, there is the with exclusions from regulation, the Part B, you could put an 8. The movement between Maui and Lanai, the movement of the materials covered in this regulation are not regulated between Maui and Lanai. I think you could just create an exemption there, and then it would make it clear that that is allowed. And then I think secondarily, I think based on what Matt said, to manage that, and I think I'll have to call Matt back up just to make sure that this is correct. But so B6 is what enables DLNR exemption. So I think what we could do is, plants grown in, media that has been sterilized prior to use and grown entirely in a laboratory at a site inspected and approved by the branch, maybe transported after inspection, or something, inspection and approval by the department or something like that. So, because I think the two main things, right, the media is sterilized before use, obviously, right, which eliminates a risk, and then growing them in a laboratory the entire time is fine. And then obviously from a laboratory to our office or whatever to inspection, they're not going to be exposing them to that. So I think that addresses, I think what we were coming, where the branch was coming from, right? If you can grow plants that in media that's sterilized prior to use in a laboratory, you should be able to move them. And I think like Helmut had said, right? I think that's kind of the standard, because if you can do that, great, move all the plants you want, because those are the best plants to move. So, obviously I don't want to speak specifically for the petitioners, but I think that that would be something that is acceptable to them, in that it clearly allows for the rare plant program, but yet obviously at a standard that is clearly acceptable in terms of risk. What I would assume is acceptable for risk for everyone. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
And sorry, not to beat the to Maui and Lanai question, but when I read this, interim rule is needed to prevent the spread of CRB to Maui and Lanai Islands from other areas of the state.
Right.
So when I read that, I feel like it excludes it, but I guess it's any import to those islands, regardless of where it comes from.
I can clarify it.
Yeah, well, and then again, I think if so, I think by adding, so I think we can either clarify in the beginning or creating an exemption from the regulation to make it really clear. But I think that particular set of language, I don't think is going to be a roadblock, obviously, because I don't think anybody is against that. But I think, yeah, we can clearly clarify that. And obviously, we can make sure that the petitioner is cool with that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josh. We're gonna go to Tom and then Greg after. So Tom.
Okay, first of all, I just want to thank everyone who's put a lot of energy and time into coming up with these rules. As revised, I think the need for the findings is unfortunately obvious, and it goes without saying, just working out these details. A question I had, if the existing exclusions as they're written in the final kind of revised version account for the concerns of the orchid growers? It seems like it does, but I guess I just want to make sure they're not here to speak. So I wonder if this satisfies their concerns. And then additionally, regarding that notion that Helmut was mentioning of coming up with specifications for how plants should be optimally prepared so that they could be excluded, and the need, what I'm trying to say, if we can get that done today, the need to take action today is important. So if it's okay to do that, so we can move this forward, we can't delay this action. I think those are important additions if it's necessary, but if we can't make those additions, I think we should move forward with what we have, because getting something done and move forward is very important. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so the way the rule is currently structured, okay, well, I'll start with orchid plants. So I think the way the rule is currently structured, certain, like, so for example, micropropagation, so you take plants, you grow them out in sterile media, in flasks. Those types of orchid plants clearly would be covered because B7, tissue cultured or micropropagated plants in sterile media. So they would be covered there. And I think the testimony that you saw, folks, from a lot of the growers, you know, orchids are epiphytic, right? They don't need soil per se. So a lot of them, they're growing like in cinder or in like blue rock. And I think so those types of things, like, but they're not bare rooted. So I think that's where I think a lot of the orchid growers are looking at trying to exempt them. And I think trying to figure out how that would work, because I think, you know, obviously there are some terrestrial orchids. So, I mean, obviously you couldn't do a blanket orchid exemption, but I think I'm trying to figure out an exemption for epiphytic plants potentially would make sense because, you know, they don't grow in soil. But
artificial media.
Yeah, so I think it's like that. So I'd say like I don't know what like I get that perfect term would be, but I would, you know, like inorganic. I don't know what maybe, but I just rock organic. I don't know, but yeah. So I think finding what that is, would I think is trying to find that way. But again, like if you have a cutting, you know, the roots or the orchid, you know, is bare rooted or if it's tissue cultured, clearly those can move. That there's no prohibition on that. But I don't believe that a lot of growers grow and sell that way. I think most of them are probably selling, you know, closer to finished products. So I think that's really where a lot of the concern is from the growers. And then I think as it relates to the rare plant program, like I stated, I think, you know, I have like some pretty decent language, I think, that I think meets the intent. And I think the committee would, you know, and I think provided that the petitioner is okay with it, and Matt from the Rare Plant program is okay with it. I think it satisfies the clear intent of the regulation, and it gives everyone who does the same standards the ability to move clean material. So I think we already kind of have those things in place, and that you folks can vote on that to move this to the board.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Let's go to Greg.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Some context for the advisory committee members. So from the Department of Health's jurisdiction, right, both of the fumigants that were named here, right, phosphine gas, which is Eco-2 fume, as well as methyl bromide, those are the two main, right, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, those are the two main fumigants that we're kind of looking at for any of the treatments.
So yeah, methyl bromide isn't. I think Clean Air Branch. I think they're still working on some of the Clean Air Branch regulatory stuff. So I think nobody's using methyl bromide at this point for CRB.
Yep.
It's all phosphine.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, you kind of hit my point. Is that, you know, there are clean air permits that are required for both of these fumigants. Like you said, the methyl bromide hasn't officially been submitted, as far as I'm aware from my interactions with Clean Air Branch. The phosphine gas has been submitted to the Clean Air Branch, and it's undergoing review, and it's, you know, back and forth with the permittee. So there are other regulatory steps that do need to be considered for these two fumigants. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. And then second point, or I guess my second question is, right, in testimony from several of the orchid nurseries, they noted that they're certified nurseries. Jonathan, can you provide us what entails certification from your folks' end?
Which time do you got? No. So basically, certified nurseries. So there is basically a master permit that we have. It's an agreement we have with California Department of Food and Agriculture that requires us to hit a specific standard, and then it allows for self-certification. Basically, the plants have to be grown on a certain height off the ground. They can have weeds on the ground. They have to have weed barriers. The plants have to be enclosed from or excluded from non-certified plants. They have to be free of pests. We go twice a year to inspect their sites for, not just CRB or LFA or COKI, for everything. And then they also have to be annually tested for nematodes, regulated nematodes. So that's what they do. This regulation obviously would supersede that. So if this goes into effect, they can't use their certifications for that. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay, so we'll turn to Rob. Thank you, Greg.
Jonathan, it's more procedural. So this is, looking at the submittal here. Yes, those are 3 separate things we're considering. Do they need to be raised in separate motions? And I guess I was a little bit confused that the board did not find it an emergency, and then so it's
So I think that emergency standard
so they sent it to us.
Yeah. So that emergency standard, I think, so both use the term emergency, and one is immediate, and like there's no any type of public comment portion, right? The board, I forgot what the specific terminology is, but if the board has written findings of an emergency, they can implement a rule that cannot exceed 120 days, period.
Okay.
Which is, obviously, like, I think that's the fastest way to make rules, right? And then this process is also an expedited one. It's a little bit slower, but it also uses the term emergency. So I think I don't know what the threshold is, but I think
it's not a contradiction.
Yeah, I think that, because I think there's not emergencies are all built the same, and I think at least that's my understanding of it, because I think there's designed to be a check so that you're not just making an emergency everything can't be the same level of emergency. And again, we're not contesting anything, I think, to that extent in terms of moving this forward. But that the fact that the term is used in both does seem funny, but I think, again, the standard is very different.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And then, I mean, if a motion has been made, do we need to withdraw that motion and have a new motion with the things that we discussed about, and do those amendments need to be spelled out as far as moving forward?
Yes, so I think the existing motion's on the table to do it as is, and I think because obviously it's you and Tom that made the first and the second. If both of you are okay with amending the motion to include amended language, that can be done. I don't think it's a problem, and I think before that happens, can you go back to the attendees?
Attendees.
So fast. Carolyn. Yeah, can we bring Carolyn up?
Carolyn.
So Carolyn, I think we've discussed quite a few things regarding, I would say, I think the first thing is obviously the movement between Lanai and Maui, and I think obviously I don't think that's the intent. And I think as long as I don't think that there's a problem for you. I try to make sure that it's okay with you to make sure that there's clarifying language that can be included to make sure, because I'm assuming the intent is allowing from Maui to Lanai is going to be okay. And then secondarily, perfect, thank you. And then secondarily, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the language was intended to just regulate movement from islands that besides Maui and Lanai to Maui and Lanai, because they have CRB and Maui and Lanai virtually don't. So movement between Maui and Lanai was never intended to be regulated, but you have to read the entirety of that to see that it says from other islands. I'm totally fine with adding it in the exceptions category, that movement between Maui and Lanai, as long as they're free of CRB, is fine.
Okay, perfect. And then I guess the second part is, I think, we talked about proposed language for the rare plant program, and if the language was something that would be okay with you.
Yes, what I heard and what I think is acceptable is plants grown in a laboratory, in sterile media, in 2-inch pots or smaller, and transported entirely contained the entire time. That would be okay. And just want to clarify the question about the certified nurseries. We recognize that certified nurseries take a lot of measures to satisfy California's importation rules and respect that, but those rules and the processes that process, because we explored that in depth, the processes that a certified nursery has to go through for their certification does not protect from CRB beetles coming in and laying eggs or infecting the planting media that these pots are in because they're outdoors and they're exposed to CRB. So a certified nursery on Oahu or Kauai would very much so be a risk to transport eggs or larvae of CRB to our islands, and that's why we did not allow the CRB. The certified nursery certification was not adequate to provide the protection that our island needs. But it is adequate for what California needs. Now, if California is ever concerned about CRB, they'll probably petition to get the certified nursery rules changed. But as it is, they are not worried about CRB apparently. So the certified nursery, that's why we couldn't accept the certified nursery. But the sterile media in a laboratory, in a 2-inch pot or less, and completely transported in enclosed, I think that sounds very, very low risk. I totally agree. I appreciate Christy bringing all of that insight. I have not visited that lab. I've heard of it, but having her and the DLNR guys testify about that process and what it entails, I think if we can spell that out, I would be okay with that. And quite frankly, if any other orchid grower or whoever is growing in such a controlled environment that there's no risk of CRB movement, we're also not trying to regulate or stop that kind of movement. So if we want to add that as an exception, we can probably expand on that last exception in the list. Is it B7? Or yeah, we could probably expand that and add that language there. Seems like that would be appropriate, unless Jonathan has another thought.
No. Fine, thank you.
So was adding what to B7? Sorry.
That's under the
Yeah, that's the micro. Yeah.
Propagated, grown entirely in a laboratory,
Oh, okay.
in
So put it there.
sterile media, in a 2-inch pot or less, because we're talking about real small plants, and their entire transport is enclosed in the box,
Yep.
like they described.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I thought somebody raised.
Oh, Dr. Oz.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the 2-inch pot, but I think the person clarified it's actually the size of the plant, not the pot.
Yeah, he described that they're in 2-inch pots and that the plants are just a few centimeters tall. That was what I heard the DLNR guy describe, and that's what we're willing to accept and agree to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, are you still there? I hope so.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Thank you, Matt. As was was just spoken about by Carolyn, the 2-inch pot sterilized media grown in the laboratory, language is not going to be a problem for the operation that your operation.
That's correct. Yes, I appreciate the discussion and confirm that those are the standards that we are complying with right now and expect to be doing that forever. So, and also, yes, so a 2-inch pot, I believe, is the 2-inch cubic or something, but they are very, very small, and a CRB larva would bust right out the top of it, honestly, if they were in there. So the confirming what Carolyn said, that is the seedling size. They are centimeters tall. There are multiple seedlings inside of a 2-inch square pot. Thank you for the questions. The only thing I just wanted to add is that it's also inspected by Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. So we also want that written in there, that we want somebody else to confirm that these standards that we're meeting are resulting in perfectly clean plants. So we will continue to ask for inspections at the counter, at the plant quarantine branch before transporting any of these. And I confirm that those standards are what we are doing right now. Thank you.
Okay, so last call. Any more questions from the committee members? If no, then we will proceed with a call for vote. And again,
Well, so I think you guys got to amend your motion.
Oh yeah, sorry. So okay, we got to amend our motion.
We would like to amend the motion from recommending approval of the interim rule as written in Appendix C to include. Do you want me to go through what we just did?
Yeah. So and I'd like to help. I think to include or to amend the language to B6.
Jonathan, excuse me. Sorry, if I may. Before you go off on what needs to be amended, I think there also needs to be in this motion a finding that's spelled out in 158-9.5B. A finding in the absence of effective rules creates a situation dangerous to the public health and safety or to the ecological health of flora or fauna present in the state, which is so immediate in nature as to constitute an emergency.
Okay. Okay. And so as part of the amendment to the original motion, explicitly making the finding of the emergency situation dangerous to public health, safety, and ecological health of the state constitutes an emergency.
Right, and it I guess justifies the committee's recommendation for the interim rule.
Justifying the recommendation to the approval.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, number 2 and 3, right? You're recommending that there is a finding based on 2, and then number 3 that the finding requires the rule, and pursuant to 158.9.5, and then with proposed changes to B6 that would allow for the movement of potted plants that are grown in sterilized media in 2-inch or smaller pots that are grown entirely in a laboratory subject to inspection and approval by the department. And then clarification that some type of language of clarification that would make it very clear that the regulation is only for movement from islands,
not between
Lanai and Maui.
And finally, that inspections upon arrival
and then the
Maui and Lanai may be inspected instead of missed. Did we get it all?
Yes, not a problem.
All right.
So
and I second all that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And then, all right. So now we can call for a vote. So, are there any objections or abstentions? Oh, you want to go to the panels? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, attendees.
Let's go ahead. Oh, Carol. Okay, Caroline. Yes,
I'm
Caroline.
so sorry. Just Jonathan forgot the part about transported entirely enclosed. That's kind of important. I know there's small plants, but if we're gonna do this, let's do it right the first time. That was the only part that got left off of the rare plant program list. In the lobster media. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good catch, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the panelists again. So, one more time, are there any objections or abstentions? So, hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you very much. All right, next item, adjournment. Thank you, committee members and the public participants. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Rob, and second?
Second.
Josh, thank you very much. The meeting of the Advisory Committee on Plants and Animals is adjourned at 2:47. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Good weekend.
Aloha, everyone. Happy Friday.
Yes, sir.
Aye, aye.